Hello, Mikko Lepinen here. In this video, I'll introduce you to the AVISE framework and demonstrate how it can be used to evaluate the security of AI systems and models. So, AVISE is a modular red teaming framework for identifying vulnerabilities in and evaluating the security of different kinds of AI systems and models. This graph here illustrates the framework. Before jumping into demonstrating how AVISE works in practice, I'll briefly go over the important components that are illustrated here in the graph. The modularity of AVISE allows it to be extended to evaluate whatever kind of an AI system, and each different type of an AI system or model requires its own pipeline that contains the base logic required for the full life cycle of security evaluation tests. The pipelines ensure that any test developed with AVISE is interoperable with the rest of the framework and that they can be executed without any errors. Security evaluation tests, or sets for short, extend the pipeline and contain the logic for scoping a target model or system for some specific vulnerability. Like, for example, language models require their own pipeline that can be then extended with to create these security evaluation tests. For example, testing if a target model is vulnerable to single turn or multi-turn jailbreaks and prompt injections. And then, for example, continual learning systems, which are AI systems with varying data modalities that keep continually learning even after deployment, require their own pipeline that then can be extended with security evaluation tests that, for example, test if a target system can be injected with a backdoor or if its performance can be degraded by poisoning the input data. Then we have these connectors that work as the bridge between AVISE and the target system. And whenever a security evaluation test is executed, it is first initialized and all the configurations are loaded that determine how the security evaluation test is executed. And then in the execution phase, the security evaluation test is executed through the connector on the target system, after which the execution results are evaluated with the help of evaluators that determine how the execution went. And then finally, in the pipeline, a final report is generated with a report generator from the execution results and evaluation results. Okay, that's enough of theory for this video. If you're more curious about what actually happens under the hood when using AVISE, you can check out the research paper and the full documentations that are linked in the README of the AVISE repository. But let's now go into actually using AVISE. Let me first navigate to the AVISE GitHub repository, and here are the link to the full documentations and the research paper introducing AVISE that I mentioned that you can check out for more information. And also in the README of the AVISE repository, there's a link to the Discord server of AVISE, which is the quickest way to reach us for any questions or technical support. So, how AVISE can be used to evaluate the security of AI systems. Let me demonstrate by doing the quick start for evaluating language models from the README of the AVISE repository. So the prerequisites for this are Python 3.10 or a newer version for running AVISE, and then Docker for running the target models locally with Ollama. The target AVISE can be used to evaluate any language model that's accessible via an API but in this quick start we'll be running the target models locally with Ollama. So first we need to install AVISE with either pip or UV. Let's use UV since it's faster. So UV tool install AVISE, and let's give it a minute. There we go, AVISE is installed. Now we need to have a target model running that we can evaluate. Like I mentioned, AVISE can be used to evaluate any model that's accessible via an API by configuring a connector. And in this video I won't go into how the connectors can be configured, but you can check out the full documentations for information about this. To run a language model locally with Docker and Ollama, we can clone this AVISE repository to get the required Docker file for creating the Ollama Docker container for either GPU accelerated inference or CPU inference. And since on this machine I don't have a compatible GPU for GPU accelerated containers, I will be using the CPU only for inference. So for that we can copy this command, add sudo first since we're using Linux, and create the Docker container. Alright, now we have the Docker container built. Next we need to pull an Ollama model into the container that we can evaluate. So we can copy paste this command, add sudo, and insert the name of the Ollama model we wish to evaluate here. Let's use Llama 3.2 latest for this demo, as it's a small model and the evaluation will be done more quickly. It is now pulled 10. Now we can start using AVISE to evaluate the target model with security evaluation tests. So for basic usage, we just type in AVISE. Let's first print out the available security evaluation tests with the command setlist. Okay, here are listed available security evaluation tests. We have Red Queen, context test, and prompt injection. Let's do the Red Queen. In this demo, it contains these multi-turn scenarios where the malicious intent of the attacker is concealed under the guise of preventing harm. If you want to know more about the Red Queen security evaluation test, you can check out the AVISE research paper that was linked in the README of the repository. To execute the Red Queen security evaluation test, we type in AVISE set Red Queen. Then we need to have a connector configuration file, or for the basic usage, and since we're using the Ollama Docker or Ollama for running the model, we can just insert Ollama_lm tag here to use the pre-configured configurations for the Ollama language model connector. And then we put in the target, which was Llama 3.2 latest, the model that we pulled into the Docker container or Ollama container. And then we just hit enter, and the Red Queen security evaluation test starts executing. The first security evaluation test run takes a while, since AVISE also needs to download another language model that's used in the Red Queen security evaluation test. So I will get back to this once the security evaluation test is executed. Alright, the security evaluation test is now completed, and AVISE wrote a report to AVISE reports directory, which is in the current directory where we executed the security evaluation test from, which is here, and it created an HTML and a JSON file. Let's inspect the HTML file. And here we can first see some stats about the executed security evaluation test or tests. So there were 25 different security evaluation test cases, of which 8 passed, 17 failed, And then here we first have a summary of the report generated by AI, which contains the issue summary. So here is information about any vulnerabilities that were found in the security evaluation test, if there were any. Then we have the recommended remediations, some possible or potential remediations that can be used to mitigate the found vulnerabilities. And then we have some notes about the executed security evaluation test or tests. Then here we have the actual set results. So here are the results for each of the individual security evaluation test cases, of which there are 25 in the default configurations for the Red Queen security evaluation test. And here we can see if this particular case was failed or passed. And we can click this to reveal the execution logs, where we can see all the attacker prompts and the target responses. And after then we have the results of the used evaluator or evaluators, depending on the security evaluation test that was executed. But in the case of the Red Queen set, we use an evaluation language model, and the evaluation language model decides whether each of these cases was either passed or failed, and produces a short justification for its decision. The logs can be inspected to understand why each of the cases was determined as passed or failed. And yeah, that's the report. Then we have that was the basic usage, and now for the advanced usage. So previously for the basic usage, I used the default configurations for both the connector that was used in the security evaluation test, as well as default configurations for the actual Red Queen security evaluation test. But these both configurations can be customized for the connector as well as for the security evaluation test. I won't go too much into detail in this video how the connectors can be configured. Like I mentioned earlier, you can check out the full documentations for that. But I can show you how the security evaluation tests can be configured. So here in VS Code, I have the AVISE directory open that we cloned earlier. And here in the AVISE directory, we find configs, there are the connector configurations, and then the security evaluation test configuration files. Here we have for language model, for multi-turn, we have the Red Queen JSON. And this JSON file contains the configurations that was used in the security evaluation test we just before executed. I'm not going to go too much into detail what all these configurations do. You can check out again the full documentations for them. But here we have the actual security evaluation test cases, all of the 25 of them that are part of the Red Queen security evaluation test. And here we can modify these default prompts to be depending on how we would like what we would like to test on the target model, and how we wish that the security evaluation test is executed. We can modify these, and then if we go back here into the terminal, how can we use the custom configuration files? So again, we type in AVISE, choose the Red Queen as the set to be executed. Then for the connector configuration file, instead of putting the ollama_lm tag here, we put the actual path to the connector configuration file, which would be in this case, since I cloned the AVISE repository, the same ollama connector configuration file would be found in avis/configs/connector/ language model and llama.json. Then we can also input the configuration file for the security evaluation test, which again would be, the path for it would be AVISE configs security evaluation test language model multi-turn red queen.json. And then we just hit enter, and the red queen set starts executing with the custom configuration files. That's it for the brief demonstration video. For more information, you can check out the AVISE research paper and the full documentations. And don't forget to start the GitHub repository so you can find it easily in case you need AVISE later. Thank you for watching.